The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
Valley, hooey Hollywood, where any office boy or young mechanic can be a panic with just a good-looking pan. And any barmaid can be a star maid if she dances with or without a plan. Hooray for Hollywood, where you're terrific if you're even good. Where anyone at all from Shirley Temple to Amy Semple is equally understood. Go out and try your luck. You may be Donald Duck. Hooray for Hollywood.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are listening to a Radulich Broadcasting premiere podcast, Debut Hollywood. And here's your host. Ladies and gentlemen, please, would you bring your attention to me?
Oh, God.
For a feast for your eyes to see, an explosion of catastrophe like nothing you've ever seen before. Watch closely as I open this door. Your jaws will be on the floor. After this, you'll be begging for more. Welcome to the show. Please come inside. Ladies and gentlemen, boom, do you want it? Boom, do you need it? Boom, let me hear it. Robert Winfree. Yay!
That's Seether, right?
No, that was not Seether. That was Saliva doing Ladies and
Saliva.
Gentlemen.
Yes.
Yeah, I just saw Josie Scott's Saliva. The guy's not in the band anymore, but he's still doing Saliva. So the original singer, Josie Scott, isn't in Saliva anymore. They've kind of moved on without him with a new singer. Jesse and I actually did a Metal Hammer of Doom of the EP where they recorded his big hits. And then but now he's touring as Big Hits.
I don't even dislike. Man, I haven't heard Saliva in like 10 years.
I saw them Saturday night while you were reviewing the worst MMA card in the history of sports entertainment.
Was not the worst MMA card I've ever seen.
My understanding was that it
wasn't great.
Like, crying about it. So
well, hang on. On paper, it wasn't great. It was pretty bad.
Would you like some banana pudding?
No, thank you.
Okay, I didn't want to eat this and not offer you any.
Appreciate that.
Banana pudding.
In practice, we got some memes out of it at least, so I'll take it. So
anyway, Josie Scott's touring as Josie Scott's Saliva, which I saw Saturday night, and they did Ladies and Gentlemen, they did Click Click Boom, Your Disease, Always, and I thought that's the way to sing you in tonight with Ladies and Gentlemen, because boom, do you need him? Boom, do you want him? Boom, let me hear it, Robert Winfree.
The answer to all of that is no.
Well, I want you, Robert. I'd also like you to introduce the show.
Would you?
Yes, please.
Well, as you may have surmised, with this protracted chicanery, it is just Mark and I.
Woohoo! Original recipe, baby. Extra crispy.
Those are exclusive terms.
It's original. Well, I mean, it's the spices are original, but the chicken is Christopher. Just fucking introduce it, man.
Hey, look. Sorry for being able to poke holes in your metaphors.
Whatever, dude.
There we go. Now I killed the mood.
Yeah.
So tonight we are talking about Mission Impossible, whatever. Dead Reckoning, Part 1.
Mission Impossible, whatever.
Mission Impossible 7, Dead Reckoning, Part 1.
Yes, sir.
Rambo, First Blood, Part 2.
Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning, Part 1 is a 2023 American spy action film directed by Christopher McQuarrie. From a screenplay he co-wrote with Erik Jendresen. It is the sequel to Mission Impossible Fallout and the 7th installment of the Mission Impossible film series. Dead Reckoning Part 1 sees Tom Cruise running from his gay thoughts. And that was for my son. My son, he calls me father. He says, So he says, "Father, why is Tom Cruise always running?" And I said, "Because he's running from his gay thoughts." And my son says, "Stop running from your gay thoughts, Tom Cruise." As Ethan Hunt, whose IMF team matches with wits, with a powerful rogue AI known as Robert Winfree. The ensemble cast also features Hayley Atwell, hubba hubba, Ving Rhames, Simon Pegg, Rebecca Ferguson, Vanessa Kirby, Esai Morales, Pom Klementieff, who you know as Mantis from Guardians of the Galaxy, and my daughter's favorite actress.
Your daughter likes discount ethnic Harley Quinn. Good to know.
He called her discount ethnic Harley Quinn.
I said what I said. I'll make my point later.
How dare you?
All right, get out of here. You bother me. Anyway.
I'll make my point. That's actually my impression of that character, by the way.
Mariela Garriga. Yeah, no, I don't blame you. And Henry Czerny. So normally this would be the part of the conversation where I go, Robert, what's your favorite Mission Impossible movie? And we talk for 10 minutes and I cut it and I put it on TikTok. But I'll be honest with you. We did a long road to ruin on the first movie. And then you and I have already reviewed Rogue Nation and Fallout. Go back in the archives. You can listen to it, discuss it there. You can also, on the Rogue Nation one, listen to me.
Hang on. Didn't we do... I feel like we've done...
No, I can tell you what we've done. I just posted them all.
Yeah. Okay. Because we weren't quite doing this when they released Ghost Protocol, which is number 4.
Right. So Sean and I did a long road to ruin in 2 parts. We did Mission Impossibles 1 and 2 as one episode, and then Gavin came on and we did 3 in Ghost Protocol. Then we did a Damn You Hollywood for Rogue Nation. So at the time it was the movie review club. And then we did Fallout. We also, and I'm sure she doesn't remember this, but we also, my wife and I spent the last 20 to 30 minutes of our Rogue Nation review just going over the schedule and me trying to figure out what movie I was seeing with her and what I wasn't. Mission Impossible, everybody. So,
and in the decade between those 2 projects, nothing has changed.
Yeah, really. So let's just get into this series. I will say, the only thing I'll say is I made my kids binge the Mission Impossible series, but I didn't show them the first 3 movies because those were more encapsulated episodes of the Mission Impossible movie series. From Ghost Protocol on, it's been more or less one story, where the events of the previous movie had an effect on what was happening in the next movie.
With the minor qualification of Kittredge coming back from the first movie for this one.
Yeah.
Because he's actually in the first one.
Right. So with that said, take it away, Robert, with Dead Reckoning Part 1.
So as
I'm gonna eat banana pudding.
I can't stop you. So as all good spy movies do, we open on a submarine under the polar ice, where a Russian submarine is testing out their new stealth technology, and then everything goes haywire. They think there's an enemy. They shoot a torpedo. Turns out it was just a malfunction in the system, or was it? And then their own torpedo comes back and sinks them. And through the miracle of movies and plot convenience, every body floats to the surface and then winds up somewhere other than where the ship went down, because otherwise the rest of the plot can't happen. And within the bowels of the ship is part of the source code to a budding artificial intelligence program that various intelligence agencies are using. So we flash forward a bit,
and we could vaguely make out the song "Got No Strings" in the background. Oh, wait a minute, that was a different movie with a rogue AI.
There's been a lot of those.
Mm-hmm.
Look, the sum total of this, my big takeaway from this movie, spoiler, is that Tom Cruise is the only person in this universe who's seen Terminator.
Go on.
So we then come back to Ethan Hunt, who is out in the world doing his stuff. And he gets called up for a job. Things go a little bit sideways, like they always do. We get our big exposition dump when all of the intelligence agencies and the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the UN and the Prime Minister of China and whoever else all wind up in this one room so they can take turns in choreographed dialogue exchanges explaining what the entity is. It's a semi-sentient artificial intelligence program that has been everywhere on the internet, into every secure system, and it can always come back. And now it knows all our secrets, and we have to do something about it.
But because we need a 5-hour movie, it isn't doing any of those things just yet. Just giving us a shot across her nose. I said across her nose, not up it.
Please stop.
How many assholes we got on this ship?
Yo.
Dude, my whole fucking house.
That tracks.
Yep.
So after we get our very nicely timed and choreographed exposition dump, Ethan Hunt shows up and talks with Eugene Kittredge, who's returning from the first movie.
For about 8 hours, by the way. That was a long conversation.
Just hang on, I'll get to my critique. Where he explains that everyone else wants the AI so they can use it, because if you have control of it, you will be the new superpower in the world. And Ethan Hunt looks at this and goes, yeah, I've seen this movie.
It ends with total nuclear annihilation, and,
the actual, it's a miracle. Look, if someone other than
Linda Hamilton firing machine guns at people.
If someone other than James Cameron didn't own Terminator, this would have been subtitled Mission Impossible Judgment Day.
Yeah, for sure.
So he says, I'm going to get it and I'm going to destroy it. He says, but first we need this MacGuffin, which is half of the MacGuffin. So you got the mech and then the other guy has the Guffin. And then they confirm each other and this will do something. We don't know what, but everybody wants the key that you need 2 parts of. And then that will do something. And we need to figure out what that is. And then that'll do a thing. And that'll lead us to another thing. And eventually we'll save the world. Or destroy it. And Ethan goes, fine, I'll try to save it. And the CIA director, whoever he is, goes, yeah, everyone on Earth is going to try to stop you, right? Like literally everyone. And he goes, yeah, but I signed up for the job. And if I have to be the last sane man on the world, so be it.
Yeah.
And he escapes, and he gathers together his team. So we have Ving Rhames, who feels like he's shot most of this on a green screen room in his house. There's so much of his dialogue and interactions that are cut so that he's not actually there.
So there's I want to say it's a Kevin James movie. It might have been Bring the Pain or whatever that movie with the MMA movie.
Here Comes the Boom.
Here Comes the Boom. Where Salma Hayek remarks to him, are you aware that every time you talk to me, you're sitting? That's Ving Rhames in this movie. Every single piece of he does not move.
I genuinely wonder if he's got some kind of health problem that he's dealing with or something.
Simon Pegg at least runs around an airport.
Yeah, Simon Pegg does stuff. Now, Simon Pegg's there. Ving Rhames is there. Elsa, the random British broad from the last couple of movies, who's supposed to be Ethan Hunt's love interest, that just no chemistry. He had more chemistry with Michelle Moynihan. There's just no getting around it.
Agreed.
Anyway, they're all here, and we got to steal. We got to steal the thing. So they go to an airport because we have to have an airport scene. And they try to steal the thing, but Hayley Atwell is here, and she's a better thief, so she steals the thing. And then,
by the way, can we just say Hayley Atwell? Hubba hubba, rawr. Woo.
You disgust me.
What? She's a pretty lady.
You disgust me.
No, I understand that I disgust you, but can we also agree that Hayley Atwell is a pretty lady?
Yes, she's an attractive woman.
Yes, she is. One of the more attractive, mainstream Hollywood starlets. I think Hayley Atwell might be the most attractive, most talented adult woman in Hollywood right now.
Well, I mean, you did just mention Selma Hayek 2 minutes ago. So,
but Selma Hayek is, don't get me wrong, still the hottest woman on earth and the mold that God created for women of all, across the board. However, also 100. Hayley Atwell, not 100.
Okay, first of all, Selma is, I think, right around 60.
Yeah, close enough.
And to further that point, I don't think that woman has ever been unattractive. For the entirety of my existence on Earth, she's been an attractive woman.
Selma Hayek was born an attractive woman. That is,
I'm sure.
It's just hatched out of an egg.
So Hayley Atwell's here, and we get a big chase, and we're introduced to Tweedledee and Tweedledum, a couple of security forces who just bumble around chasing Ethan for the rest of the movie.
Shea Wiggum. He was in Boardwalk Empire. He's fantastic.
So Inspector and Clouseau, who are just kind of utterly useless. Anyway, they're chasing Ethan because everyone's chasing Ethan. And also showing up here is our first hint at Gabriel. Ooh. Our bad ethnic Joker to play off bad ethnic Harley Quinn. Seriously, this is the second movie this summer where the lead actor's direction was, okay, do a bad version of Heath Ledger's Joker.
Yeah.
Tell me I'm wrong.
Here, it's up there.
So they're all here. Things go sideways again. Hayley Atwell absconds with the key and allegedly some money, and she F's off to Rome, and Ethan Hunt tracks her down. And right around this time, Luther realizes they're all being had by the AI, and he leaves for the rest of the movie, or maybe it's after the sequence in Rome, but whatever. Soon enough, he leaves. There's a really stupid bit where Simon Pegg tries to disarm an alleged nuclear bomb. And he does it by taking a personality test. And I can't take this movie seriously anymore. So they all wind up in Rome because, much like Fast X again, we must repeat a car chase scene through the same city, using the same landmarks, not just the same city, same freaking set of stairs. Anyway. He's here. He tries. Hayley Atwell gets arrested because everyone's looking for her now because Ethan Hunt said, hey, she's got the thing. And he shows up and like, hey, I can protect you. And she's like, yeah, I'm not sure I believe you. And he just says, you're way in over your head. Just give me the stupid thing and go on about your life. She's like, nah, it'll be fine. I'll keep doing what I'm doing.
Didn't you see me in Doctor Strange? I'm gonna, I'll be just fine.
I can do this all day, followed by being bifurcated.
Yup. Takes a shield right to the waist.
Cue a car chase scene with a break.
A car chase scene that goes on for 12 hours.
This is one of the longest and least interesting car chases ever. I mean that.
No, I don't know if it's the least interesting. We're allowed to disagree with each other, but I do have some things I need to say about it.
Well, we'll get to it. I was there for it for the first 6 minutes. The back 10, not so much.
Yeah, I get you.
So long chase sequence. Hayley Atwell winds up handcuffing him to a car. He escapes. This is where we are really introduced to discount ethnic Harley Quinn, who shows up in a schoolgirl skirt and everything and drives a armored car through the streets of Italy.
You're a hired assassin. You're here to kill a person. Definitely put on your best cosplay. Why? The costuming in this in that particular incident it's one of those where there's no way I believe that that's what she is.
Yeah.
Why did she leave the swinger party to go kill Hayley Atwell in her schoolgirl outfit? What the fuck?
It doesn't make sense.
No, it does not.
Anyway, that long chase sequence, eventually Hayley Atwell gets away, still with the thing, so they track her down to a big party that's being hosted by Vanessa Kirby, who you may remember from the previous movie, you may not, it's okay if you don't, it doesn't actually matter.
Also in 2 seasons of The Crown.
No one cares.
And she was Jason Statham's sister in Hobbs and Shaw.
I'm aware of who she is. I meant this. I was referencing how utterly irrelevant the previous.
No, but our audience might want to know what a Vanessa Kirby is.
Yeah, you mentioned she's in Hobbs and Shaw. She's in a few things. She's not the worst.
Yeah, no, not by far.
She's
bad at it. Well, nobody's bad in this. It's just not that great.
Yeah. Anyway, so she's hosting an auction where everyone can come bid on the completed key that unlocks the thing that no one knows what it is, that will deal with the entity that everyone's afraid of. This movie is just the most amateurish attempt at dealing with an existential crisis I've ever seen. So, a bunch of people show up, a few governments, Hayley Atwell, who was actually hired by Vanessa Kirby, Ethan shows up, and Gabriel shows up. He's like, hi, I brought the entity with me, and all the LED lights at your rave go funky to show that it's here. And Gabriel is representing the entity, and it turns out that in some dark, distant corner of Ethan Hunt's past that we've never seen before this moment, a much younger version of Gabriel killed someone who was close to Ethan.
It's been so long since I've seen the first 3 movies.
It's no.
I know
Not
it's
in
not,
the first.
I know
in.
it's not there.
It's
It's
there.
been so long. I was like, are they referencing an earlier movie? When
Nope.
was this?
Nope. Invented out of whole cloth.
Yeah.
Just invented. So they have this sort of bidding war, and Gabriel's like, oh no, I know everything. The entity has calculated all of your moves, and I don't even need to bid.
Esai Morales doing his best DeForest Kelly after what's his nuts from Star Trek 5.
Sure.
Like, James, you don't understand. He showed me my pain. It was great. I'm free now.
And he's like, I know where the key is going to be. I'm just here to warn you that if you keep pushing this, someone's going to die.
Yeah.
And it's going to be one of the 2 women in your life because, Ethan, you can't protect your women. And Tom Cruise looks all angry for half a minute.
It was the adult version of I've got a ray gun. Okay, well, I've got a shield that blocks your ray gun.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And we get a big chase scene, and Ethan Hunt is struggling to get out of this place while Hayley Atwell gets out earlier, and she runs into Gabriel, and they have a fight on a bridge. And Ethan's told, no, you're never going to make it in time. Their comms have been hacked. He's given bad directions by the entity. But Ilsa can make it there, and Ilsa does, and so she gets stabbed and dies, and it's very sad. And Ethan Hunt has a very narrow alleyway fight with a utterly irrelevant extra and discount ethnic Harley Quinn. And then because he's Ethan Hunt and the only people he shoots are people with masks, he does not kill her. Runs off, finds Ilsa dead, and Hayley Atwell's like, she died trying to save me. I want to help you now. So they try to concoct a plan that deals with the Orient Express, because why the hell not? They're like, okay, we need masks. So Hayley Atwell turns into Vanessa Kirby, which is a serious downgrade. And like, okay, you go replace her, you meet with somebody, you confirm the key, you're going to figure out what this thing opens, because that's really more valuable than the key itself, is the knowledge of what it opens and how to get that. And they try to get Ethan on, but the mask-making machine breaks because we need Ethan Hunt to drive a motorcycle off a cliff and then parachute onto a moving train. No other reason.
Well, they had a lot of Tom Cruise clones to kill, so why not?
They are in danger of taking over a small segment of the... Mm-hmm. Like, we're in danger of having to give them, like, Chile one of these days. So they do. So that's our setup there. Again, Luther has effed off to do computer stuff, and he'll show up for the next part. And Hayley Atwell's nervous, and Gabriel's here, and he kills the people who drive the train and makes it go a little bit crazy. And it turns out that both Carrie Elwes, who's the director of the CIA or some such, and Kittredge are both here. Kittredge is trying to buy the key. Carrie Elwes is trying to negotiate with Gabriel and the entity to make a deal, because if we have the power of the entity and the real-world might of the American military-industrial complex, we will rule the world. And he tells Gabriel, I know what the thing unlocks. It's this computer core in the Sevastopol, that Russian sub that was sunk 3 hours ago at the start of the movie. And the source code is in there, and at this point the source code is the only way to mess with the AI, because it's evolved and reprogrammed itself too many times. And Gabriel's like, I could become supremely powerful and wealthy. Or I can kill you and watch the world burn. So he kills him so he can watch the world burn, because it's not about money, it's about sending a message. If you're not aware, if the copious knives, bad smile, and whatnot were not a dead giveaway, again, this is a Joker ripoff. So we get a big train chase, and there's a fight on the top of the train, and Gabriel escapes, but Ethan gets the key. And they barely avoid catastrophe as a bridge explodes, and then we climb through a collapsing train, and that was actually cool 10 years ago when I played Uncharted 2 on release, not so much here.
My wife came home from work. She's teaching summer school at a camp, and one of her coworkers made a comment that the beginning train sequence with the aged Indiana Jones is the same as the finale train sequence in Dead Reckoning.
It's up there.
Yeah. I couldn't disagree too much. I mean,
I
I
don't-
prefer Dead Reckoning to Indiana Jones, but that goes without saying.
It was easier to see.
Yeah, for sure.
But no, there's a lot of truth to that. And because the Joker beats Harley Quinn, he turned on this version of the Joker turned on his version of Harley Quinn when he's like, "You'll betray us because Ethan spared your life," and then he stabs her repeatedly. But she's still well enough to save them, including holding up both Tom Cruise and Hayley Atwell as they dangle from the end of a train, while violently hemorrhaging blood and having one lung full of it, one would assume. And then she tells Ethan Hunt what the key unlocks, that it's, this Russian submarine, and we get a voiceover from Kittredge, and Ethan escapes, and Hayley Atwell talked with him and says, Ethan told me that I could join the IMF, and then Tweedledee and Tweedledum are here for reasons. And please come back in a year for the sequel, assuming it gets released, because if we haven't already shot it, there's a strike going on.
Yeah. All right. So real quick, I mean, I saw the movie twice. I saw it once with my kid, and then I saw it Friday night again. And here's my thing. Without knowing how part 2 is going to go, this doesn't need to be a 5 to 6 hour movie.
Nope.
This was a good 2 hour movie. And if you shorten the action sequences to a reasonable length, not as much as I love Lord of the Rings, not every action sequence needs to match the time and intensity of the Battle of Pelennor Fields. Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. There are 2 long stretches of opening dialogue that go on forever. I mean, like you and I talk about how the Netflix vanity project has given way to nobody knowing how to edit their films anymore. And so they just go for whatever runtime feels fancy to them. Don't Look Up being a really good example of this.
No kidding.
Where it's like, no, let's tighten up some of these dialogue scenes. This is going on, I understand like these aren't meant for a 9-year-old, but a 9-year-old did watch this. And when I asked him, 9-year-old, what did you think of the movie? He was like, oh, the action sequences were okay. But I mean, I have to imagine there were people just like the 9-year-old going, do they ever stop talking? This is going on interminably.
Look, man, there's ways to marry your exposition with action so that the whole movie stays engaging. This was...
Well, I mean, and Tom Cruise is supposed to be doing like smoldering intensity, and it just sounds like they're talking in a library. Everyone's in a monotone. So it's long, it's monotone, it's not that interesting. Because all you needed to know in the scene with Carrie Elways and Czerny, Henry Czerny, is we have a rogue AI, and if somebody gets it, it's they could use it to destroy the world. And then Ethan shows up and is like, well, I'm going to get it and I'm going to destroy it. I'm not going to let it fall into anyone's hands because it tips the balance of power. That 30 seconds is how long I took it. If you want to be cinematic about it, 5 minutes. That scene, 5 minutes long, max. Which is my biggest problem with this entire movie, is that this is bloated as all fuck at this point.
This is about in a well-constructed, well-paced movie. What we saw would be about an hour of it. Look, you make this normally, your big finale movie, call it 2.5 hours.
Right.
What we had here was what should be roughly 45 minutes to an hour of your big blowout movie.
Here's the thing I'll tell you. And I'll go back to my actual criticism of the movie in a second. But my issue with Dead Reckoning was I thought this was the end of the Mission Impossible franchise. So they broke it over 2 parts. It's a 6-hour goodbye to Ethan Hunt. Okay, I can live with that. Let's give the man his due. Let's give him a final bow worthy of this franchise. And they're like, no, Tom Cruise just recently came out and said, I'm going to make these movies until I'm 80. Then there wasn't a reason to do this.
Yeah.
This isn't a good enough story to carry 6 hours. This is ridiculous. Or 5 hours for that matter. But
whatever.
You talked about the car chase. And here's the thing. And I remember this was something I said about the earlier Mission Impossible movies. The thing I do like about them is that while bad stuff happens to Ethan Hunt, they don't make him invulnerable. Here, they really made him even a little bit more relatable in that he's in situations where he's not quite sure how to get out of it, and he's just sort of reacting. So, like, he's handcuffed to Hayley Atwell. they have to keep switching sides because, she's not a getaway driver and he is.
She's apparently the worst driver in the world.
Yeah, really. The stuff they did with that Fiat was funny. But even like crashing the Fiat into like motorcycles and walls and stuff because it can't control the car right. I'm like, oh, that's fun. We haven't seen an action hero like struggle with just driving a car. Everyone's Vin Diesel. They just get in the car and they can make the car do anything. So it was nice to see some vulnerability in our hero. It was nice to see him be fallible, which I think is a trademark of the Ethan Hunt character, is that he's not quite Harrison Ford in Clear and Present Danger, where he's just befuddled and confused the whole time and mildly incompetent. Like some situations are a little out of Ethan's grasp and he has to kind of scramble. So I like that. Pom Klementieff, as ridiculous as her outfit was, like, she is the very representation of the female comic book character who's like, is supposed to be a fighter, but her costume is like missing pieces and her boobs are hanging out. It was that kind of a thing. It's like, you are not wearing the right outfit for this job.
I want to give her credit for a couple of things. She has almost no dialogue.
Right. But she's very intense. She does a lot of acting with her face.
Yeah, but her acting physically and facially is genuinely top notch.
Yeah, no one gives a bad performance in her. And I have to, for my daughter, yeah, she'll glom on to whatever, big fun action female there is in the movie. But as stupid as the costume is, it does have a look that is appealing for a wide variety of people. But I would say that my daughter was a lot like a lot of people, where she clinged to that character because of the physical acting. She's a fun character to watch, especially when she's like frustrated and she's trying to kill him with the car and they're just dodging her at the last second. So all that tracked for me. But the car chase, the good, the bad, and the ugly, the car chase, it's fun because they've got the little Fiat, and so it kind of takes again, I think about like the James Bond movies and how like it's an expensive, fancy car and with all these weapons on it, and James Bond can do no wrong and he looks cool doing it. Like, this was almost a comedy of errors, and it was kind of nice to see because it's very different from Jason Bourne or James Bond and how they're presented. On the other hand, that car chase scene is approximately 9 hours long. By the end of it, I was like, I don't want to. Like, what are we doing here? Like, you're stretching out these action sequences to justify your 6-hour movie, and it's utterly unnecessary.
Completely. I mean, I have that exact same complaint about essentially the entire train sequence.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't stop thinking while watching that there's people out there doing the Millhouse thing. Like, when are they going to get to the fireworks station? When is Tom Cruise going to actually get on the stupid train? Well, we spend like 20 minutes
of him trying to catch the train.
Of like, okay, Benji, when do I start going down? Very soon. And it's just like, and it just drags everything out. There's not actually a lot of tension there.
Go back to the airport sequence was the same thing. The airport sequence goes on forever. Yeah, it goes on forever. And by the time you actually get anywhere, you don't care anymore. The car chase scene, by the time you actually get anywhere, you don't care anymore. That club scene was reminding me of The Matrix Reloaded. And a lot of this, and that was kind of my takeaway when I got to the end of it. Like, this feels like it was written by somebody who had just watched The Matrix Reloaded. It was like, you know what the best
can see that.
You know what the best part about The Matrix Reloaded is? All the talking. That's what this. I swear to God, that club sequence, the conversation about the AI should have basically been, no. Hayley Atwell is here to bring me the AI so that I can sell it to the highest bidder because I'm Vanessa Kirby and I'm an asshole. 30 seconds that took me to explain. That scene is 12 hours long.
And it's painfully, it doesn't do anything.
No. All you needed was to get Vanessa Kirby and Hayley Atwell in the same room and then get to the chase in the street and then kill Rebecca Ferguson. Which, oh, by the way, for the love of Tom Cruise's life, I got nothing out of that. Like, he finds her dead. And this is another problem I have with the movie. This is a critical drinker thing. Not critical drinker. This is a pitch meeting thing where why are these two characters in love? Because they're the lead boy and lead girl in the movie. There is I'm telling you, no fucking reason for Tom Cruise and Hayley Atwell to be in love in this movie, except that boys have penises and girls have vaginas, because that's about the only thing that brought them two together. And that is a fact. Thank you, 9-year-old boy. Tom Cruise, like, Vanessa Ferguson dies, and he's like, okay, I'm going to protect you now, Hayley Atwell.
Because Vanessa Ferguson?
Rebecca Ferguson, sorry. Rebecca Ferguson.
You're blending all the people together.
They all kind of do. Like, okay, well, Rebecca Ferguson just died, so I'm going to now project all of my feelings about her onto you, Hayley Atwell. And I'm looking at this going, why?
Well, no. You know why. Like, not just because they're the lead, but, you know. Hayley Atwell is a trade up from pretty much everyone else in this franchise's history. So
well, sure. Hayley Atwell is one of the prettiest women in Hollywood. We already established this. But in movie, there's no reason for it. She tries to steal from him for the first 45 hours of the movie.
Yeah,
in that train in the airport, rather.
Yeah, she spends the first 3/4 of this movie stealing from him and running away from him.
Right. And then it's like, well, my girlfriend died, so you're my new girlfriend now, Hayley Atwell. And she should have been like, get the fuck off me. Which she kind of does. And it's about the only thing believable about this movie is they're like, okay, well, you're going to join the IMF now because Rebecca Ferguson's dead and you have to save the world. And she's like, the fuck out of here. I'm a goddamn thief. Why would I? I'm not a spy. What's wrong with you? But she ends up doing it anyway. And I'll tell you, Hayley Atwell is probably the best part of this movie. Not only is she fun and attractive and, and charismatic, and she does really fun things with Tom Cruise. Not like that, you perverts. But I popped my kid.
How did that pop your kid so hard?
He's my kid. But like the stuff that they have her doing, actually, like, it is more believable for me that she would continually turn Tom Cruise down to join the IMF and then feel compelled to do it out of guilt later than Tom Cruise like automatically just falling in love with her because she happens to be a woman and near him. That really bugged the shit out of me. I like the train sequence. It's I don't know if you've heard me say this before on this podcast, but take a drink. It's too fucking long. And then we get to the bit where the cars are starting to go over the falls, and it's fun. That
would have been okay, two things about that. Again, one, I did that 10 years ago, might have been longer than that, playing Uncharted 2, because that's your opening sequence actually for that game. Is you open in media res with your character with Drake being stabbed and having to climb up through a train as it falls through the Himalayas. It's great. And it was great then.
Mm-hmm.
This would have been so much better if we hadn't already had a fight on the roof of the train and a tunnel sequence, and then the bridge blew up, and
Shea Wiggums is yelling at Tom Cruise, and Tom Cruise says, "But I didn't kill my wife." And Shea Wiggums says, "I don't care." All right, wrong movie.
Sure. And it's by the time you get to the stuff that might actually be genuinely good, you've so overstretched and overstayed the welcome of the premise that there's nothing there anymore.
I fucking felt like Vanessa Kirby. I'm just like falling asleep. I'm like falling over. Oh,
can we talk for just a minute? The humor in this movie does not land half the time. Like this should have been played more straight. Like it felt like a studio note at various points. Like, can we get some jokes?
Yeah, well, I mean, for the most part, and I go back to the car chase, I like that stuff only because I'm getting tired of my spy movies being so super serial and everyone's like Jason Bourne and utterly humorless. So it was actually fun to see Tom Cruise like having fun in this movie, but it all needs a pass through editing.
Well, to the point, I don't mind this movie having personality, and I agree with you. Like, one of the nice things about Ethan is that he's not just this stoic,
right,
unstoppable monster. But when I say it felt like a studio note, it's more like it feels rushed.
Yeah.
Okay, we got this car chase. Well, it's too long. Okay, well, we're not going to cut it because we, need a giant runtime. Well, can we add some humor then to break up the monotony? Sure, we can make some thinly veiled sexual performance jokes about Tom Cruise and Hayley Atwell.
Yeah. I liked, the trains going over the falls, and I like, and I thought there was sufficient tension there. It needed to be slimmed down. It needed to be trimmed up. It needed to go faster. And And then this whole plot is to get this key, which Ethan, with spoilers, Ethan gets at the end. But we all have a whole other movie now of, you know where it's going. He's got to go down into the stupid sub and go unlock the thing and get the source code and change it so that they can defeat the AI. And the AI is going to throw all the orcs of Mordor at them to get in between and stop it from happening. Once again, it would have been perfectly fine to have done this in one movie.
Yeah.
So that's really all I got. You got anything else?
Again, it's too long. It's unbelievably self-indulgent in many respects.
Again, I could have lived with this if this was the final send-off for Ethan Hunt, but it's not. At which point, this movie feels a little shallow for me.
Very. There's nothing here that couldn't have been accomplished in half of this movie's runtime.
Yeah.
Nothing. So...
and it looks nice. It's a well-done movie. It's a pretty movie. You know, the cast is, I like say something positive. Sure, everyone in this movie gives fine performance.
I'll give you one exception to that rule, but again, like the villain, I can't get over the fact.
Esai Morales.
Sure, whatever his name is.
Okay.
Look, he may as well have done I'm the author of all your pain, Ethan. Like, I set you on this path. I started you down the IMF.
You know who he reminded me of?
Jim Phelps.
His whole thing reminded me of the one speech at the end of Bullet Train, where the one guy's telling Brad Pitt, like, your whole life was manipulated to be leading to this point, and I'm the one that did the manipulating. And it was like,
but that only worked because of the punchline that it was supposed to be Ryan Reynolds.
Right.
Like, otherwise, if you take away the punchline to that scene with Michael Shannon just ranting at him, it actually doesn't work. It works because of the gag.
Yeah.
Instead, it doesn't. Like, look, I can buy an AI being powerful enough to reasonably calculate every decision that is made by people that you have enough tape on. Predicting the future is not that hard. It's just correlating appropriate data.
Yeah.
So I can get that, but and to your point about the other thing, like, if it's already able to crack into almost every digital location and whatnot, it should be wreaking much more havoc than it is. Instead, it's just like,
that is one thing I wanted to talk about, because you and I in our like pre-show prep was like,
well,
this is.
Let me to that point. Let me talk very briefly. So I rewatched Terminator 3 a couple of weeks ago because it was
why
it was there.
Okay.
It was on one of my streaming services. It was nice background noise while I was doing other stuff.
Okay, fair.
So I rewatched it and I realized a couple of things about that movie.
Mm-hmm.
So one, it gets more hate than it deserves. It's not great, but it got really unfairly lambasted.
Well, Dane DeHaan Cook Schmagegi isn't great, and then it had the dubious honor of following Terminator 2, one of the greatest movies ever made.
True, and it needed a better script, but I actually the basic story of Terminator 3 and kind of the bones of that story I really like, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I actually, because I'm me, I like the idea that Judgment Day is inevitable. I like the idea that in that world you can try, and what you did mattered, but there's certain things that it doesn't matter what you do. Like, we're going to get to this point. And the point relevant to this one is that movie is functionally about Skynet getting access to the world's nuclear program by creating essentially a false flag of a virus that is screwing with everything in the world. Then various governments will give this experimental and now self-aware AI access to their mainframes to fight it off, and it can destroy the virus, but now it's in everything.
Right.
That's the functional plot. And it gets control of everything, and as soon as that happens, because the Terminator's there, and he says it's self-aware, it's in where it needs to be. Congratulations, you've got 90 minutes before the nukes start falling. Like, because there's some real-world time applications that go into launching ICBMs, it turns out. But like, order one for the AI: we nuke the planet.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we're gonna do.
Right.
And it doesn't, like, everything that happens ancillary to that is making sure that it's not stopped from doing that. But
Right.
it's there. Once it's in everything, you lose.
Well, what was it? I think the Fast and the Furious, the last one that we saw, where it was, I think it was that or something else, where, oh no, it was the Flash, where Michael Shannon Zod is like, standing on the battlefield, and Supergirl's like, "Be right back. I'm gonna go get the Flash now."
Yeah, he does nothing about it.
And he's like, "Okay, everyone take a timeout. Hey, fuck off. Get a sandwich. They got to go get their team ready because it's a football game."
It's in the script.
Yeah.
They get time.
Well, why is the AI waiting? Look,
Yeah.
So we had this conversation with our friends about your movie just can't be a bunch of strung together. We talked about this with Indiana Jones. Your movie just can't be a bunch of strung together action sequences. It has to be about something. I did like the fact that they were thoughtful about using the action movie genre as a way of talking about modern anxieties. And what are we anxious about now? We're anxious about artificial intelligence. There's a fucking strike going on because of it.
Well,
among other things. Among other things. But, the idea of...
Oh, by the way, as a brief aside to the audience,
Mm-hmm.
for those looking for Mark and I to talk about the strike, now that the Screen Actors Guild has joined the Writers Guild of America, we're not going to do that here. That will be next week when we talk Oppenheimer. We don't have enough time. Mark's got stuff, and it's scheduled for next week. So
yeah, Alexis kept doing another show, and I said I'm social. I don't have time for that, but we can throw it into but I'll have time next Tuesday. I don't plan on having various people be coming over as my studio audience. So we'll have plenty of time to talk about it. So we're going to throw it
as soon as the studio audience moves in, the neighborhood goes to hell. We've established that.
The studio audience said she doesn't want to move in here. She wants her own place. Believe me, we've tried to convince her twice.
I was making a Family Guy reference, and you had to make it weird.
That's me for you. Anyway, people are throwing things at me.
Again, the studio audience, they ruin everything.
The studio audience is like throwing pie at me. Anyway, cabbages, tomatoes, boo. Whatever. Shut up. So anywho, back to more serious matters. So yeah, anxiety about artificial intelligence. I mean, we've only had 100 years of science fiction tell us that once the robots become sentient, they're going to launch, they're going to destroy the world. So now, so I actually had this conversation with my wife where, when I was talking about what Mission Impossible was, I said, it's a meditation on the what is artificial intelligence, what does it mean to the world, and how will it be used against us, and the anxiety about that people have. And
it turns out it's not actually about that. It's about Tom Cruise getting over it.
Yeah, well,
it's about Tom Cruise pursuing Hayley Atwell is what this movie's about.
So anyway, so I said the problem with that is she goes, she goes, well, we've only been dealing with. And
then what's his face, Gabriel, at the end, standing in the bed of a truck, realizing he's been pickpocketed, going, "Ethan!" just like William Shatner yells about Khan.
I almost did that in the theater. He's going, "Ethan!" I'm going, "Khan!"
I know. It was so stupid.
So the point is, just so we can wrap this up, my wife goes like, "Well, we've only been dealing with the anxiety over artificial intelligence for decades." And I'm like, "Yes, but we've never been closer to it actually happening than we are right now."
Yeah.
And I compared it
to that point. If you go back and look at older science fiction that deals with AI, it's never actually about the AI itself. It's about something else related to the human condition. Recently, we're dealing with, oh crap, AI might actually replace us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at. I mean, I've written about this. I've done podcasts about it. I've talked about it. The idea of mechanization, computerization, motorization, all of these things replaced people. And I've talked about like the conversation that at the Ford plant where, Ford was having people, I think it was like German engineers walk around his plant going, and this machine replaces these workers and it makes this thing and does this a few more times. And they're like, yes, but how many cars does the machine buy? And that's something that I have talked about over and over and over again, is that the more we automate, the less people we have. And if you don't have jobs available to replace them at the same skill level, you have a lot of angry white people voting for Donald Trump. I mean, you have a lot of people out of a job.
Hang on, because this rears its head in more places than the United States. What you
Yeah,
wind
I
up
know. I'm being way facetious.
Well, so let me be slightly more facetious, but in a broader sense. What you
Mhm.
get is the rise of populism. And
Yeah.
the populist movement will, at the moment, everyone's worried about the populist right because that's what we're doing these days, I guess. But populism isn't actually it's not aligned politically left, right, or center.
Mhm.
Populism is just whining. But
Yeah.
if you
They
whine
took
it,
our jobs.
hang on. Let me make my point.
Sure, sorry.
Populism is whining, but that's why you can dismiss it 80% of the time. The 20% of the time that you're whining about real problems, you have to pay attention to it because if you're whining about real problems, everyone agrees. And
Yeah.
then whichever side of the theoretical political spectrum appeals to that populist part, that's who gets in power.
Right. So to finally make this point, and we can move on. The movie at least speaks to that, which makes it better than other action movies, Indiana Jones, that aren't really about anything. Though I credit where credit's due, because last couple of podcasts I've really been giving Chris Bailey the business, and Chris Bailey actually wrote a really nice. It was in our group chat, but he did write a response to our Indiana Jones thing about no, it was about this, and this. I wish I had like audio I could just play it, but or somehow share it with our audience. But Chris Bailey did a really, really good job of saying what he thought Dial of Destiny was about as a response to us saying it was about nothing. So good on Chris Bailey. You're a good boy.
I appreciate his looking into that. It's about that's like trying to find meaning in Phantom Menace. You ain't gonna do it.
So anyway, in short, I like that Dead Reckoning tried to deal with it. It just the problem was there's no reason for the AI to have waited. There was no reason for the AI to be like, well, here's your 10-minute head start before I start nuking the world. It's like Terminator still is the best dramatic example of what happens when an AI becomes sentient. There's no waiting involved. It's just, oh, I'm alive. Humanity.
That's a problem.
It's boo, and then launches missiles. That's it. There's no waiting around.
Yeah, it was actually one of my. The more I've thought about it, the more it's one of my gripes with Ultron.
Mm-hmm. Well, Ultron was trying.
Well, hang on. Like, I'm fine with the line being, oh, he spent 5 minutes on the internet and wanted to wipe out humanity. That tracks.
Yeah, sure.
What I'm not as fine with is part of the bit being, oh, he's everywhere. He's in all of it, so the only place we can be safe is at Hawkeye's farm.
Mm-hmm.
And if he's already that integrated, I mean, they do a bit with like, oh, he's trying to get into the nuclear codes, and well, can we stop him? Probably. Like, and then you never touch that plan again. Like, no, he's trying to nuke things.
Well, I don't want to get into a whole thing. We're almost at the end of our first hour here, and I want to move on to the money. But the thing that they kept relying on was that Jarvis was blocking him at every turn.
Yeah, and
but the tension was they thought Jarvis was dead, and then they realized no, he's alive, and in his being alive, he was blocking Ultron from executing his plan. Had there been no Jarvis, theoretically, Ultron would have blown the world up. All right.
Again, it annoyed me annoyed me a bit with Ultron, but it adds to the pile of stuff that I have issues with about that movie. Last thing on this one, I'm just going to harp on it again.
Mm-hmm.
You needed a better villain for this movie.
Yeah.
And you didn't have it. You needed someone with actual menace, and not there.
I would have almost preferred no villain. The villain is the AI, but the AI keeps throwing things at them. Mobilizing other machines, drones.
Well, hang on. Like, we can do that. The AI falsifies reports. It gets there's a million things you could do.
Right.
And
imagine if the AI had done something where the entire world was chasing Tom Cruise. And in the amount of anxiety and tension that would have produced, I think would have been better than Esai Morales going, I have a ray gun and a shield that blocks your ray gun, and I am protected by the four corners of the wind and whatever else he said.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
So
I am all the Jedi.
Yeah. That was a giant miss and a pretty big problem with the movie. Last thing, and this is purely personal, and it just annoyed. I shouldn't say it annoyed me. So one of the things I'm doing at the moment in my quest for a black belt, part of the things you do when you go for that, you make up a kata, you make up a form, and there's specifications for it, and it has to be so many individual techniques, and then you do them left and right, and you have there's rules for that. So part of that is, I've made it up at this point. I'm just, practicing it and whatnot.
Yeah.
There's a sequence in that knife fight on the bridge that is almost identical to something I created. And there's it's nothing but pure coincidence. There's again, I only made it up, 4 weeks ago, that part of it. So, and this was filmed a while ago, so there's no way it's actually stolen, but I watched that sequence and went, hey, wait a minute.
Hey, something wrong here.
I would have stolen that from you. It's a nice 3-4, and I have no problem stealing from action movies for my inspiration for stuff like this either. But
all right, here we go.
Your randomness of the day.
Yep.
All right, money, because we actually have money to talk about this.
Yay, money!
We're in the money. We're in the money.
All right, on a budget of $291, almost $300 million. This thing made $235 in its opening 5-day weekend. It's a bit of a mixed bag, to be honest.
Well, it opened on Wednesday, so as you mentioned, had a full opening week almost.
Well, I think the Twitter analysis from the movie pundits has been, had this opened on Friday, had it opened on Friday, you might not have gotten any different numbers overall, but Friday would have looked better. But all the people that would have seen it Friday saw it Wednesday and Thursday. So it's the same. So it looks better if it's concentrated. It looks worse if it's spread out over fucking 5 days. Keep
going.
As of July 16th, 2023, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1 grossed $80 million in the U.S. and Canada, and $155 million in other territories like China, for a worldwide gross of $235 million. In the U.S. and Canada, Dead Reckoning Part 1 was initially projected to gross around $90 million from over 4,000 theaters over its first 5 days, as well as another 160 from 70 international territories for a 5-day worldwide of $250. The film made 15.5 on its first day, 8.3 on its second, making $16.6 million on Friday. And 5-day estimates were lower to 54 and 78 respectively. The film went on to debut 56.7 in its opening weekend, the second best total of the series behind Fallout, and a total of $80 million over its first 5 days, besting the second film $78.8 million in 2000. The John Woo Mission Impossible movie in name only.
Hey, I actually really like that movie.
Good for fucking you. It's not a Mission Impossible movie. It's a John Woo movie.
Hold on. Why is it not Mission Impossible? Explain that one to me.
If I remember the movie correctly, it felt more like a John Woo action movie than a Mission Impossible movie.
Hang on. I'm not saying it's not very evidently a John Woo film. There's doves and slow-mo and...
Yeah.
Yes, John Woo's influence is there. I'm saying, why isn't it Mission Impossible? What is lacking from what you consider a Mission Impossible movie in that one?
I feel like it was less spy-oriented and more a collection of stylized action sequences. So it has also been a long time since I've seen that movie.
You want to pretend that's not what the last several of these have been?
Hey, Henry Cavill's bathroom fight scene is still the best thing I've seen in decades.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying,
So I had the studio audience and her 2 kids come over to watch that, and her 2 kids could have been less than giving a fuck about Fallout. I'll tell you that right now. They walked in and like, turn this shit off, and I'm like, no, this is what we're doing. But I made everybody, and I mean everybody, from the ages of 6 to 31 watch this fucking fight scene because Henry Cavill with the gunshot, movement of his arms.
You mean when he loads his biceps and immediately not only grows a patch on the corner of his shirt, but also another day's worth of growth on his beard?
Yes. It's still one of the best fight scenes I've ever seen in a movie.
Look, I'm not saying it's not good. I'm saying if it's not you, It's
Mhm.
not rated that highly, but because you're you.
Yeah. Anywho, yeah. Besting the second. When the film fell short of expectations after it turned out a much lower opening than expected, Deadline Hollywood noted that unlike Indiana Jones, another near 3-hour film that cost $300 million and opened to $83 million over its first 5 days, Dead Reckoning Part 1 benefited from the better critic and audience scores, and noted that Cruise's films normally hold steady at the box office in subsequent weeks. Yeah, this also was tracking with an older crowd. I think when I saw it Friday night, second time around, there were a lot of middle-aged people there. Like, Tom Cruise is a brand people trust, which is why his movies make money.
Generally.
All right. So the weekend that was Mission Impossible opened number 1. No shit. Sound of Freedom, which rose from 3 to 2. Sound of Freedom is like a little engine that could, man. Like, this is the movie that's embarrassing Indiana Jones and Lucasfilm at large and making Hollywood not like itself. Speaking of which,
you know what? I say good for it.
Yep. Yeah, I almost saw it last night. Insidious fell from 1 to 3. Indiana Jones 2 to 4. Elemental 4 to 5. We may have been a little too hard on the Beaver with Elemental. Apparently, that's like slowly making money.
You know, I think here's what we underestimated about it.
Mm-hmm.
It rebounded from no buzz.
Yeah.
A lot faster than a lot of other movies have. Like that thing opened bad. It's still probably going to struggle when it's all said and done. But I don't think, to the point we raised about Pixar's brand being damaged, it turns out it's not so damaged that good word of mouth can't repair it.
Yeah.
It's not catastrophically damaged yet.
And I will tell you that people who don't necessarily key in or run away from gay shit have said good things about Elemental, and it's been a solid family movie. Spider-Man fell from 5 to 6.
Well, also to that point, it hasn't had a competitor in that space in particular. Like, there hasn't been another family movie yet.
Well, there was the DreamWorks one that nobody saw.
That's not that's helping my point, not yours.
Transformers rose 1 spot from 8 to 7 and traded places with no hard feelings.
That's still losing money hand over fist, man.
Come Join the Joyride dropped from 6 to 9, and The Little Mermaid, again, not doing what Disney needed it to do, but it's still earning cash.
Hey, the mainstream media is being utterly disingenuous about both Indy and Little Mermaid at this point.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing the worldwide gross is equal to the listed production budget. They broke even.
Yeah.
Which point everyone who knows anything.
Yeah.
Points and laughs.
You lion sacks of shit. Speaking of lion sacks of shit, Flash, currently the number 1 bomb in the history of movies.
Dude.
11 to 13.
Hang on. The Flash and Indy, between the two of them, are set to lose like almost $1 billion for those two studios. Like, when you add up the total losses.
Right now, Paramount's not feeling bad about itself anymore after dealing with Babylon. The Miracle Club debuted at 14, Theater Camp 17, Psychopaths Providence 19, A Fire 22, Black Ice 23, Lakota Nation versus the U.S., which was a draw.
That was not a draw.
Debuted at 24, and Have You Got It Yet? The story. I'm not going to make that joke. Have You Got It Yet? The story of Syd Barrett and Pink Floyd debuted at number 25. Worldwide on the dime, baby. Super Mario still number 1. Guardians still number 2. Fast X 704.
That's I think it's done at this point, right? Like, Fast X is out of theaters. Like, it's 704.
Maybe, yeah. Spider-Man number 4. Little Mermaid, it's just holding steady in the 5s at number 5.
Dude.
Oh my God! And there's our fentanyl corpse, fucking Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Dude, Little Mermaid not even hitting 600.
Yeah, that's a certified bomb.
I mean, well, again, there's people. Look, the talking point coming out of that one is going to be, it made $600 million at the box office, and everyone who knows how this stuff is calculated looks at that and goes, "Yeah, you needed more than that, didn't you?"
Yep.
Why don't you admit it? You needed more. But yeah, I mean, and dude, when Snow White bombs in the next 2 years,
I really hope they fucking. Is that last production still got released? I really hope they cancel.
They showed the dwarves. Well, they're not dwarves anymore. They're magical forest creatures.
Ugh.
Because you can't say dwarves. Thanks, Peter Dinklage.
Yeah, it's fucking ridiculous. Transformers number 8.
I hope everyone involved in that production gets some terrible communicable disease.
Elemental at number 9. Indiana Jones at number 10 at 303.
Oh,
and let's talk about the.
Hang on, let's talk about Indy for just a second.
Mm-hmm.
3 weeks out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 303, and this is where the Hollywood trades and whatnot going. It broke even, and everyone who looks at that, everyone who knows anything looks at that and goes, "No, it needed like 600 to 700 million to break even."
Can I tell you how I've been encouraged to apply for CEO of Lucasfilm by my friends? Like, no shit. I sent that out. I think it was like a Midnight's Edge video or something where it was like the reason they're keeping Kathleen Kennedy is because nobody wants the job. And no shit, 2 or 3 people wrote me back going, "Why don't you apply for it?"
Well, if you're not up on the rumor mill around Kathleen Kennedy at the moment, so rumor has it, and I'm going to stress rumor, but it's starting to gain a little steam.
Mm-hmm.
At the moment, she's basically locked out, and what's been found is pretty serious misappropriation of funds.
Oh, really?
Well,
are we talking embezzlement here?
I don't know. Again, this is rumor, so a lot of the rumor is vague language.
Mm-hmm.
The example given was Hollywood has a long history of like soft accounting.
Mm-hmm.
So if Lucasfilm was allotted, for example, call it $60 million to make Andor. If you're the head of a studio and, okay, I don't care much about Andor, I want to make The Acolyte, and you shave 5 to 10 million off of Andor's budget and give it to The Acolyte, which is, again, apparently that's been going on for a bit. So other projects that like had different budgets than they were supposed to, but that's kind of old hat. If there's something else going on, something that might be criminal.
Yikes.
So, I mean, here's the other thing about that, Mark. I'm not saying you couldn't be CEO of Lucasfilm. I would encourage you to apply, believe it or not. So let me, in fact, you know what? We've got like 3 minutes here to just vamp. So here's your tech talk.
Okay. What else? Thanks. Got it.
Hang on. Mark Radulich, you are called by Bob Iger tomorrow, and he says, "Marky boy, I saw your TikTok. I'm offering you the job. You're now head of Lucasfilm. What do you do?" What is Mark Radulich's...
Stop.
Hang on. What do you do the first week? What's your goal for the first 6 months? And what's your goal for the first year and a half?
All right. First, everything stops. And we just kill every production. And I fire everyone that currently works at Lucasfilm under the age of 40.
Okay.
And my first production is an adaptation of Shadows of the Empire. Recasted, all new people, and basically we go forward with new Luke, new Leia, new Han, but we don't remake the old movies that are already made. We make new movies.
You find people who look like them?
Yeah, we make new movies with those characters. Kind of like what they did with Solo. Just not that guy.
So you're recasting those 3.
Yeah, and make Shadows of the Empire.
Okay,
that's what people want to make. That the I can't remember the name of the game, but the one where you're I think it was like Dark Forces or something like that, where it was the one where he starts off not being a Jedi, but over time he kind of develops those powers and he's got the lightsaber and everything.
You're gonna have to be more specific. That's like every Star Wars game.
Okay, well, my point being, it was a long-running series for a while. I played a little bit of it on the Wii. I would make a version of that. I would stay off television for a while. Star Wars becomes the sole providence of the in-theater experience. And I would eventually work my way towards making the Thrawn trilogy. First 10 years. Like, go slow, recast, make the books. The books that came out, the Del Rey books that came out when I was, I think, in my late teens, early 20s. Because, one, that brings the fans back. Because that's what we wanted in the first place. The stuff that they dubbed legends. 2, it's those were really good stories. People have been wanting to see the Thrawn trilogy for decades now. People really like Shadows of the Empire. And then there's a handful of other books that were written during that period that people would want to see adaptations of. shit, you could do Dark Empire, the one where briefly Luke goes to become they clone the Emperor. Luke goes to the dark side, and this was a good story. They clone the Emperor.
Sure.
Luke goes to the dark side, and Leia has to save him using what little force power she has. It's actually not a bad story. And then
But
you can start
Mark,
getting
Luke would never go to the dark side. How dare you? You're destroying our heroes.
People loved that comic. But that's what I would do. I would kill everything, no more television for years, and only do theatrical exhibition and only do tried and true adaptable books and comics that people liked. And then after we got the fans back, then we could start experimenting with some new shit. That's my Lucasfilm. That's what I do there. Indiana Jones, start all over again. Wait a few years, but start all over again with a young Indiana Jones and make good new good stories. I don't know what the fuck you do with Willow. That might you just might have to leave alone for a while.
I mean, it never should have been revived.
No shit.
Like there was nothing to that story.
All right, so I think there's going to be a strong hold because Tom Cruise is a trusted brand and people are liking Dead Reckoning, which we'll talk about in a second. But this is it. This is the end of the summer that's coming up, and it's going out with a bang, literally. Barbenheimer, which I told my kids, like, I have plans to see them separately. I'm going to go this Thursday to see Oppenheimer, and then I'm supposed to take my kids Monday. But if my plans on Sunday change, I might take them to do the Barbie Oppenheimer double feature, which is going to be fantastic.
Okay. Can I warn you about this? Can I make you the pitch to not do this?
Okay, sure. You can do whatever you want.
I appreciate that your children are mostly civilized beings.
Okay.
If you take them for 7 hours to the movies like that, bad things are going to happen.
Maybe. I mean, the worst I think that'll happen with my kids is they'll fall asleep. But all right. With that said,
hang on. Good hold, but Barbie takes number 1, and we think Oppenheimer takes 2.
Yeah, I would tell you if I had to venture a guess and put money on it. Barbie 1, Oppenheimer 2, Dead Reckoning 3. Though I will not be surprised if Oppenheimer debuts at 3, and Dead Reckoning stays at 2.
That's fine. That's fine.
But I would bet my house and at least one of my girlfriends that Barbie is the number 1 movie of the weekend next week.
Your house is worth so much more.
Shut up. They're right there. Yeah. It's the end of the summer, though. Barbenheimer is the end of the summer. Because after that, it's like fucking Haunted Mansion and The Meg. And
Christopher Nolan is nuking the summer. It's going out with a literal atomic bomb.
That's the thing. It's like there's still like name movies coming out because there's always a name movie out now. There's very rarely a week that's why we're weekly now. There's very rarely a miss week, but no one's going to see Haunted Mansion. Like we'll go see The Meg and we'll talk about it, but it's not going to do gangbusters.
Not really.
And then by the time you get to September, that's when we start doing Netflix movies again because there's nothing else to talk about. So with that,
more or less.
So with that said, our final segment of the evening, the critical review.
Are you ready? No! I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
All right. The critical review. We've got You Can't Knock the Hustle, baby. 96 on the tomato meter and 94 audience score. Oh, we can actually change them both this week. The top critics drops 96 down to only 95.
That's about right.
Again, probably one of the best rated movies of the year.
To that point, like you and I had our issues with this movie, but if we use the pass-fail metric, right?
Yeah.
Is this a pass or a fail? It's a pass.
Oh, it's absolutely a pass. We nitpicked the shit out of this. We're just like, that's the thing. People are gonna listen.
We didn't have to.
Why do you fucking hate everything? And it's like we didn't. We cited what the problems were, but that doesn't necessarily mean it was like an awful experience or like a totally bad movie. It's just these are things that could have been better about it. I really wish people would understand that that's what we're doing. But
Mark, don't you understand how the rating system works?
Yeah, I know.
5 stars means it's good. Anything less means you hated it.
Yep.
That's how
And
people perceive.
And you're a communist and a homosexual. Speaking of communists and homosexuals, the Chat GPT says
that is not an appropriate segue.
With world-threatening stakes and epic set pieces to match the massive title, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1 and You Will Know Us by the Trail of the Dead proves this is still a franchise you should choose to accept. Ugh. I just got that. Yuck.
How were you that slow?
I'm so tired.
That's
I was
fair.
up at 5. Dude, I got up at 5 o'clock this morning to go to the gym.
Well, that's a better use of your time.
Yes, sir. All right. Taylor Baker, a drink in the movies. Drink it in. Don't you drop a drip. Don't you drop a drip. Don't you dirty daddy's carpet, Taylor Baker.
Well, that got dark in a hurry.
Crews skating by the skin of his teeth and narrowly escaping would-be captors and death dealers alike feels more like a Chaplin boxing match than any boringly grounded contemporary superhero feat.
That's a weirdly constructed.
It really is.
Like I get the point he's making, but that could have been said so much better.
And then the opposite of that review, Josh Larson of Larson on Film, stingy with the stunts. Ugh.
How is this? That's all this movie is. If it's not stunts, it's people sitting around talking. It's not stingy.
Kevin Carr, fat guy at the movies. Hi, our friend Kevin. Top-notch action hides a whisper-thin plot for a great summer action thrill ride, and Kevin Carr can still see Russia from his house.
Hang on. That's at least a useful review.
It's fair. It's also dumb. It's also fucking rock stupid, but Black Robert Winfree, Armin White of National Review says,
Please do not call him that.
reducing cinema to gimmicky sensationalism is regressive. He's so you. Especially when McQuarrie's repetition is this witlessly conventional.
You know, that does speak to a lot of our problems with this movie, though.
Yeah, it does. Jake Wilson, The Age, Australia top critic. The last 40 minutes of Dead Reckoning Part 1 make up for the rest in the rank with the most thrilling action sequences I've seen this year. I mean, I can't disagree.
The train sequence was interminable. It's just Tom Cruise floating for 20 minutes while Hayley Atwell...
Well, other than anything in Fast X, is there anything else we've seen this year that had a better action sequence?
I didn't like the action in Fast X either. I'd take everything out of John Wick or Extraction over that. Everything. Watch more movies.
Grandma Winfree, Susan Granger of SSG Syndicate. Yo, it's a syndicate, y'all. Cinematic adventures just don't get more exciting than this intense, thrilling saga, cleverly blending character, story, and spectacle.
There's no character or story here. Like, just none.
All right, I'm gonna go find one of your wives, and then we're gonna call it a night here. Oh, Anthony Lane of the New Yorker, top critic, likes nothing, but he liked this movie. Relentlessness of this order ought to be chilling. Not so. Instead, we are stirred and amused by a preternatural sight. Men as little machines. Ugh. But this one's even better.
Hang on. Let's all take just a minute here to appreciate that the New Yorker's critic decided to be so pretentious that he equated men turning into little machines with this movie. Like, that's a level of snobbery I didn't know was possible.
Linda Cook of Arquad Cities. It's impossible not to accept this mission.
There's our
Clipboard.
that's the gag reflex kicking in. You read that one and your mind just wants to vomit to eject it from your body. Just,
yeah. All right. Where are your wives? Show me your wives. Show me your women.
You know, one of these days, that's going to hit me when I'm feeling wrong, and I have like 8 zingers lined up for it.
The future ex-Mrs. Alexis Hana, Jeremy Johns of JeremyJohns.com, one of my friend's favorite critics, and this is why she's wrong. It checks the it checks the boxes it needs, checks the boxes you want, checks the boxes you expect. Be better than that, Jeremy Johns. Be better.
Yeah, that's not all that helpful.
No. Where are your wives? Where are the Mrs. Winfrees? Where are you at? Nick Johnston of Vanyaland.
Still hasn't found them.
There's something to be said for consistency, but when paralleled with this most high-profile competitor, The Mission Impossible movies often come up lacking in most departments aside from the stunt work.
I'm not sure that's true.
I was
This
going to
actually-
say,
This actually, for as paper thin as this plot is, it's actually a better story than Fast X.
yeah.
Better stunt work too.
Uncle Malty, Leonard Maltin of Top Critic. The most recent installments is funny and genuinely exciting, but not for 2 hours and 43 minutes.
Not wrong.
Not that running time is any way to judge a movie, but an audience that has been entertained and not exhausted might be happier overall. I know I would.
You know, he's right to order them off his lawn with this one.
Yeah. I'm not done with this until it's Ed Whitfield of the Tray.
Found
The Tray, Robert Winfree of the
You found
Screenplay
one of our
Podcast.
gimmick picks.
Yep, that's all. It's all gimmicks tonight. Suffers from Part 1 syndrome. You ain't wrong.
You know
It's
what?
a long-
Yeah. I mean, we didn't expressly state it that way, and we should have, but yeah.
It's a long setup to get to the movie you came to see, the one in which the laid pipe delivers the thrills. It's deflating to get to the end of a 2 hour and 43-minute picture and hear the words, "This is only the beginning."
Not wrong.
Yeah. Yep. Where are you, Carla Renata or Lola Lamb Chops? Where are you? Did we finally hurt Carla too much? Is she running from us? Oh, wait, I found one.
I was going to say, one can hope.
Tanya Lamb of Lola Lamb Chops, the future ex-Mrs. Robert Winfree, the first and best. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 is one heck of a ride with constant thrills and explosive action. Thank you for writing the quip for the DVD cover, madam.
Yeah, you're trying to get featured on the sizzle reel in front of the movie on the trailers at this point.
Speaking of communists and homosexuals, Doug Walker of Channel Awesome.
I will accept that.
Well, a better title would be Mission Ridiculous. It's an entertaining, fun, adrenaline-filled ridiculous.
Is it,
Ugh.
though? Can I be honest, Mark?
You sure?
I was bored by the vast majority of this movie. I was utterly disinterested.
Friend of the show, Jeffrey Harris of 401mania.com.
Hi, Jeff.
The fantastic action sequences, the great chemistry among the central cast members, some beautiful locales, and all the technical aspects harmonized together, making it up for the ham-fisted AI setup.
He's praising the same things we did. The actors work well together. They actually do something with the locations, and Tom Cruise being willing to do physical stunts instead of just CGI everything is admirable.
But I'll tell you, it's one of the things that brings people to the theater is they want to see what high precipice he's going to throw himself off of into an ordinary drinking glass. Observe.
Oh, dude, did you realize why Marvel does everything green screened these days?
Why?
Because set designers are unionized.
No.
So
All right,
it's actually I don't know if it's cheaper, but it's easier to just put everything in front of a green screen and then outsource that to the lowest bidder overseas for CGI work. It's pathetic.
All right, last one because I can't find Carla. Travis Hobson of Punch Drunk Critics. All of Cruise's female co-stars bring something different and valuable to Mission Impossible, and Travis can see Russia from his house.
That is a very poor pullout from your review. I don't know who decided that was a good one, but that was a bad call.
That is our review of Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. Not every one of our reviews has to be 2.5 hours. So
we can exercise editorial restraint on occasion.
Yeah, listen,
Martin Scorsese with your 4-hour thing.
I cannot wait for Killers of the Flower Moon. I'm bringing a tent.
I feel like I'll need to
bring water.
Not just that, I genuinely worry about spending literally half of my waking day between travel previews, the movie, and travel back.
Right.
That's genuinely a.
Did you go see a film binge? No, it was one movie.
No, it was just Martin Scorsese.
Yeah. All right. This is the only live review I'm doing this week. Tomorrow I'm doing Naked Trivia. Wednesday is the movies that don't suck and some that do. They're going to be, speaking of Naked Trivia, they'll be reviewing No Hard Feelings and Asteroid City. On the Thursday, we got a re-air of our Game Changer Wrestling Josh Barnett's Bloodsport 2 alternative commentary that I did with Pat, who turned me on to that series.
Dude,
Way
Josh
back
Barnett, hang, Josh Barnett's salty right now at the moment because NXT is doing the NXT Underground thing.
Of course he is.
No, I'm not even mad at him for being salty about it.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
they tried that with
I'm with
Raw
him on
Underground and it sucked.
Yeah.
Like now that so I think it might be NXT Europe that's trying it or NXT UK, right?
Mhm.
But he's just like, oh, so you're just stealing from me wholesale? Okay.
Yep. Way back
Not
in the
wrong.
yesteryear, one of the Superblog team ups was about immortality, and our contribution, because we're dicks, was an alternative commentary for Jupiter Ascending. Jupiter Ascending, the sci-fi for girls, Robert Winfree of the Screaming Boy podcast. Don't you understand?
Hey.
Yes,
The movie sucks.
it really does. Saturday, we're taking a break from Everyone Loves a Bad Guy, and because it's the anniversary of said things, we are doing our Jaws 3 alternative commentary. That's a replay from something that Jesse did on one of my vacations back in the yesteryear. And Metal Hammer of Doom Sundays is our typo negative retrospective. This is what I should have edited. I didn't because I don't have time, but you could actually hear me fall asleep on this podcast. It's fan-fucking-tastic.
No, you like, even with the power of editing, you have to leave that in for artistic purposes.
Absolutely. Speaking of artistic and autistic purposes, Ronnie will be on the show. We're going to be doing Barbie, Sisu, and the Machine. What? And then our Damn You Hollywood proper is Oppenheimer. Alexis will be here. We're going to talk the strike during the money.
First time, dude, it's like the first time since like 1960 that both the writers and actors have been on strike at the same time. Everything is stopped now.
And assuming he is sober, conscious, and remembers, this Thursday is our second attempt at this. Pat and I will be talking the Barrera Morales trilogy. Robert Winfree, while I go pee, show us where you piss from.
No. All right, I cover a few different things, mostly mixed martial arts and professional wrestling over at 411mania.com. I cover MLW's Fusion on Thursdays. And I have to regrettably announce to all of you that the bloom is off the remainder of the rose for MLW lately. There was a time when I would argue that MLW was actually the best booked promotion. It just had the least to work with. I think that's fallen off now. It's kind of fallen apart lately. So I cover that though. So if you're interested, give that a read. I cover WWE SmackDown on Fridays. So this week, Roman Reigns and Jey Uso are going to negotiate terms for their SummerSlam match. So we'll find out the stipulation. That'll be fun. And whatever else is going on over there. And I cover UFC events on Saturdays. This last Saturday was a utterly forgettable event on paper that turned out to have like two good memeable moments that came out of it. So that's largely being remembered. This Saturday, more of a matinee start time. The UFC is back in London, and I will be covering that event. I think the prelims start at like 3 p.m. Eastern. I'll have to double check, but it's earlier in the day than usual. And that's a 15-fight card, so that'll be fun. Fun, Mark. Fun. If you want a full preview of that event and a review of last week's, I host the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast on Sunday evenings. It goes live early Monday morning. So give that a listen if you're into the wide, wacky, wonderful world of mixed martial arts. This week I talk again the UFC events. Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou signing to box. Woo-hoo! And please don't do that. You don't actually care.
Don't tell me what I care about. Hey, did you see they made Shakur Stevenson mandatory for Devin Haney?
I did. I hope they make that fight, but
I hope Shakur Stevenson calls Devin Haney a bitch.
If that's all he calls him, we'll be lucky.
Yeah, no shit. All right, you almost
Dude,
done?
Come on, man. Like 2 weeks ago, I watched Israel Adesanya get in the face of Dricus du Plessis, who's a white South African and the presumptive number one contender, and Izzy repeatedly referred to him as my African brother N-word.
Perfect.
I figured you'd get a kick out of that.
Considering what I call my children, yes.
Well, your children call you father. How dare you call them that? So again, if you want all discussion of the other thing we talk about is the light heavyweight title being cursed. Because, Mark, in case you didn't know,
Yeah, I saw.
Jamal Hill ruptured his Achilles tendon at one of those stupid UFC basketball games for International Fight Week.
Perfect.
Had to vacate the belt, so who knows?
Yeah.
Cursed title. So yeah, there's talk about that and all the other stuff. Again, MMA related, so give that a listen if you're so inclined. Genuinely looking forward to Oppenheimer next week. Mark, we can talk about a good movie.
Finally. All right, folks.
No, dude, we joke because we're slightly cynical and misanthropic here.
I would say the last one that we genuinely praised was probably John Wick, and what was that? Fucking April.
Let me pull up the calendar real fast because I want to go back through this now. I think you're right, but I wish.
I was gonna say last week was Flamin' Hot and Extraction. I mean, we praised Extraction. The week before that.
So,
well, first fuck wasn't Indiana Jones.
Hang on. We were both okay on Guardians.
Yeah,
that was
I mean, like we genuinely praised. Were just like, wow, yay.
We were okay on Big George Foreman.
Yeah.
And then Fast X we crapped on, Little Mermaid we crapped on. We were largely complimentary of Spider-Man, right?
Yeah, we were largely complimentary of Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, but that was way back.
Yeah.
So I think Spider-Man...
Oh, you know what? No, the last one was Evil Dead Rise. We had almost nothing bad to say about it.
That's true. Yeah, so that might have been like... Yeah. It's been a while since we've just been able to sit back and like, you know what? I liked this movie. Here's all the things I liked about this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll be nice to do that again. So...
Yes. Hey, if anyone wants to know what we sound like when we're positive on something, check out our review next week on Oppenheimer. Then watch us be negative when we talk about the strike. All right, folks.
You know what? I don't know how I feel about that one, actually, because much as my misanthropy kind of points at all the actors and writers and tells them, like, most of you suck at your job, so I don't actually care. When you consider some of their actual requests and some of what the studios are demanding, I completely understand their point.
Yeah, yep. We'll talk more about this next week.
Yeah.
All right, folks. This has been our review of what were we reviewing? Oh, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, Part 1.
Mission Impossible mission colon impossible dash Dead Reckoning colon Part 1 semicolon. However, comma. We're going to turn this into a trilogy instead of a duology.
Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, Part 1, and you will know us by the Trail of the Dead. Whatever other stupid band names there are. All right, folks. For Robert Winfree,
Surfers.
Yes, who was in my room last night. Detachable penis. Fucked with an anchor. I can keep going. Be well.
Cannibal corpse. Goat whore.
Anal cunt. Be well. Be safe and behave.